It is 6:35 PM. I'm calling this meeting to order. We have a quorum. In fact, we have all 5 towns represented, so we have a full house. Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, done. CTSB report. Rich?
Without a mask?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to start my report with some current happenings. We've been busy and continue to be busy, and at CTSB in partnership with the library, our second short film contest with entries due on April 15th.
Oh, nice.
Last year's contest was very successful and contained a lot of great videos from our community, including our libraries and even many people who don't live in the area. This year's theme is Think Spring, and we look forward to seeing more entries in creative works from our community as we did last year. We have a new show from the Lee Historical Society called Rock Stars and Paper Tigers that features the history of the Lee paper mills and quarries, presented by Phil Smith. It's a 50-minute tour of the history of those sites with some great photography. Our studio and editing rooms have been consistently being used by members, which now number over 140. That's almost triple the membership of PCTV in Pittsfield. We're currently waiting to hear back from many organizations who've shown an interest in sharing media with us. Farmington River School wants to get their kids involved. There's a teacher down there that teaches video and photography, and he wants to create a partnership, so we're working on that. We have got a partnership with the Austin Riggs Center. The annual galas are coming up. And
What do you do with Austin Riggs?
Austin Riggs is coming in soon to create some awareness campaigns and some interviews with medical professionals. And we're going to help them produce that stuff. And
Anybody know how many beds they have?
I don't know. I know they have a really large staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, can you hold your questions till then?
Oh, sure, sorry. Of course.
So lots of great partnerships going on, and that leads me into our busy season. So our busy season is in the spring. So we're busy because we got high school graduations and annual town meetings. And in the past couple of years, these graduations have been outdoors, streamed, distanced. Hopefully this year, things have changed, but that we'll still continue to record and stream all the graduations. And we know the community loves to see that because not everyone can always attend. And then we will be, this is a great event. We'll be streaming and recording the Mona Sherman Memorial Lecture on Saturday, May 28th. This year's speaker is Congressman Jamie Raskin, and he'll be at the Mahawi Theater. So we've created a partnership with the folks at Ali who are presenting the event, and they expect a full house. So we will be streaming the event and recording it. I'm sure you're all aware of who Jamie Raskin is, head of the January 6th Commission and an author, and he tragically lost a son to suicide, and he's a very interesting speaker and leader. In addition, we will be also recording and live streaming the Elizabeth Freeman Memorial, which will happen here in Sheffield by the Sheffield Historical Society. They are going to unveil a statue, and there will also be a play where Elizabeth Freeman will be played by Wanda Sykes. So we are working with the Historical Society here to ensure that I believe it's the church out front. Yep. So we're gonna check their internet speeds and connections or cable over here to our fiber line, and we'll bring that event live to everyone on our broadcast and online. So yeah, lots of, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, there's lots of partnerships and lots of people coming in and producing content, and our staff has been super busy working with them to make things happen. Our Zoom meetings. Our Zoom accounts are mostly webinars now, so that keeps people from Zoom bombing and terrible things like that. And we've created CTSB email login accounts, so the schools and some of the towns can now log in and host their own webinars and Zoom meetings without the CTSB staff actually having to start the meeting and co-host it. And so that's a big improvement for us and for the towns. The current level of Zoom meetings some weeks we have 10 Zoom meetings. So our staff can get quite overwhelmed with making sure all those are covered. And I know Stephen starts at sometimes 9 o'clock in the morning with the Zoom meetings, and at 7, 8 o'clock at night, he still has Zoom meetings going on. So this will free us up a little bit, and I think things will start to come back around in person this summer. Which brings me to my next topic, our annual report and funding. We will begin working on our annual report in the coming weeks. And this year, we plan to make our annual report a little more condensed, a little bit more readable, photographs, highlighted facts. So we're going to make a big improvement over our previous annual reports. And I will be asking our board, if our funding is consistent this year, to hire a part-time videographer. And as things go back to in-person, we will be in desperate need for an additional part-time staff member to cover town meetings and school board meetings and concerts in the park and help us edit and things like that. So I'm hoping our funding is consistent so I can ask for that additional hire. If we lose funding, we may have to lay off one of our 4 staff, and that would be horrible for us because we're a staff of only 4. So losing one person would really put us into a skeleton crew position. Michael?
Would it be all right if I just, because it's only pertinent to this part of what he's discussing.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have a move in Stockbridge to make Zoom hybrid meetings where participation at the meetings can happen at all meetings, and possibly a requirement that we do that. I also know from speaking to other town officials and other groups around the state that there's also probably going to be very much a push for hybrid meetings. So when I hear that you're talking about videographer and we're turning in person, I think you're going to see most meetings going hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And when I refer to hybrid, it is remote participation.
Right.
So I guess I just hope that you keep an eye on, I think my gut tells me that's the direction meetings are going,
I hope so.
instead of back to in-person and classical recording, which doesn't allow the participation. So I just want to make sure that,
Yeah, we're hopeful of that. The decision hasn't been made yet, though, right?
at the state level, it hasn't been made, but it's very much my understanding of looking at the legislation that's coming through in that hybrids, I will not be surprised if that's the way forward, period.
I agree. Everyone loves it, and we've kind of mastered the whole world of Zoom now. But we could still use an additional staff member to cover all of the in-person events and community events. So yes, fingers crossed on that one. And just, I wanted to say, by comparison, Pittsfield, PCTV in Pittsfield has 7 staff members, and they cover 1 town meeting and 1 school board meeting, where we cover 5 towns with 5 town meetings, 4 school board meetings, and additional meetings on top of that. So our staff is quite stretched thin. So this, we're hopeful that our funding comes in at a regular level without, when I say regular, not devastating. We certainly would lose a staff member if that was to happen. So that's it for my report tonight, but I think things are good, and we've been super busy, and we have a lot of great community events coming up, and the building and our equipment is in great shape. I think it's the best it's ever been. Our technical ability and the skills of our staff have just been amazing. So things are good.
A question for, two questions I have. The things that you're doing for other towns, other than the 5 towns, are you getting compensated for the studio time and for your services, for putting those things together for them?
We generally don't charge if they're sharing it with us. If it's additional content for us and it's not a big, if there's not a big need of our staff to produce their content, we don't mind turning on the studio lights and running cameras if someone wants to come in and sit down and do an interview. But if they're creating a production that's not going to be shared with us, or if it's very extensive and it requires days and days of editing and graphics and things like that, then they have to produce that themselves.
Yeah, but also personnel time.
Well, if the studio's not booked and we're all in the office that day, we don't mind helping people out if the production is.
So in other words, if you have to bring in somebody from the outside, then, or a part-time, an additional part-timer, would they, do you think they'll be able to share that expense with you?
I don't know if we would have our part-timer do, say, like studio productions like that. Partnerships with like the historical societies, they pay for a membership and they often make a donation and things like that. But
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Donations and partnerships kind of thing.
yeah, we always ask for a donation. I wouldn't say we have a lot of productions outside of the area. I would say this Farmington River School thing was kind of caught me off guard, but it's something positive for the kids. So I'm all for it. And their teacher's a video professional, so
Well,
it would be more use of our facility and probably not much of our staff time.
okay. Jamie Raskin, you said it's going to be live?
We will stream that live from the Mahawi, yes.
So it will be streamed it'll be a live feed for everybody watching?
Yes, on our broadcast as well as on our website.
Okay,
What's the date again?
thank you.
Jamie Raskin will be there May 28th. And then the Elizabeth Freeman event will be August, I'm not sure the date, I think August 6th.
The play is the night before.
Yes.
And the dedication of the statues on Sunday, I think it's the 23rd. And Wanda's doing the concert. I don't know that she's going to play Elizabeth Freeman.
Okay, that was what
Yeah,
I had
Wanda
learned through
Houston-
speaking with
Wanda
the.
Houston will give the concert. She'll be one of the featured at the concert. But, I haven't heard that she's playing Elizabeth Freeman.
Okay, yeah, that was what I had
But
heard.
You got the dates right, and it's going to be a big event.
Okay,
So,
that'd
yeah.
be great, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just keep in mind, if you have any cooking, our kitchen is definitely available.
That's one of those things that's on the back burner too. We've got a great kitchen available to us at the Stockbridge Town Hall, and again, it's a staffing thing, and it's a partnership we should talk about soon. I think we can find some local chefs and sponsors to make that happen. So I'll get back to you on that very soon.
I want to throw in 2 cents on that. You might ask some of our local restaurants if they want to have their chefs be on there and use that to, as a teaching, a cooking show as well. But their trade-off is they're going to get the publicity of their chef being there, and they should highlight that at the restaurants,
Right.
that they will.
I'm sure we
chef
could
will
create a
be on.
little excitement around it.
Yeah, and I think a sponsorship would help pay for the equipment and the time, and that's the perfect opportunity for a sponsorship there.
Yeah.
So what do you think a sponsorship would cost? Just a range?
I mean, sometimes you can ask for a certain price per show or
Well, just give me a range.
$1,000, $1,500. I don't know how we would break that down, if that would be per show or.
So you might think of the new owners at Triskelly and Lee. They're very seasoned. They want to be part of the
I'm
community.
sorry, where?
Cafe Triskelly in Lee. Rachel and Frank sold it in November. and there's just a fabulous
Okay.
couple. She's from they're from Washington.
Yeah.
They have a young child in school.
Okay, no, because I was going to say, the people who were there before, I had a problem with the food. I got sick there twice.
That's
Stopped
unusual.
going there.
Yeah, we just need if we could find a guest that could bring in, you know, other guests.
That's what I'm saying, but you might want to do a series that you could then get some of these participants
Yeah.
to come in, and schedule the different restaurants in a series.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this kind of got put on the back burner because of funding again, because it is a little bit of investment in equipment, but I can tell you cooking shows are super popular. All the PEG stations out in Boston have got these great seafood shows, and Rob works at Dalton TV where they've had a cooking show for 10+ years now, and they're headed towards their 300th episode.
Wow.
Well, why don't we help you find somebody who can conceive of what the production should be and let them sort of take control?
We really need someone to take control
Yeah.
of it because it would be too much for the staff.
So if you prep me on what you need, maybe I can find somebody.
Sure.
Somebody who works for nothing,
Yeah,
gratis.
of course.
Volunteer.
Precisely, that's the point.
Fine, excellent.
And, you know, remember, we are a farming economy,
That's right.
so we have a lot to offer.
Yeah, Berkshire grown.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably one of the biggest things that we could do is to have a show that's based on local food and local chefs.
Yeah, but also Berkshire grown, the cooperative.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions for Rick?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay. John? Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I don't know.
For viewers who may not be familiar,
Oh.
with it, just give your name and.
Sure, John Marr from Charter Spectrum, Government Affairs. I don't know if folks want to go over the RFI. Is that part of the discussion tonight, Dennis, or anything in particular?
The email requesting information, or is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
I
Or,
don't know if you folks want to discuss that this evening, or?
not really, I
Other-
just want the
no,
information.
Yep. And on the price adjustments,
Yes,
so folks are aware that we just sent out notice on the price adjustments. Broadcast TV surcharges went up like across the board, just the programming costs have increased so much that a lot of the prices have increased. Just recently, they're going into effect on or about April 1st on a lot of different services, so that's really the biggest highlight I have for this evening.
What's the percentage increase?
I don't know what the percentage is, but like the broadcast TV surcharge went up from $3 to $3.50. It varied by community. The digital receivers, that's a
So
small
did-
piece of equipment people need, that went up by $1, so it was one,
What was the
two,
base price?
$3. I don't have the
So
break.
that's an increase of a third? It's pretty significant for just one item.
So John,
What's
do
an
you,
increase of a third?
You said from $3 to $4.
No, I said those were the price increases were anywhere from $1 to, I'm just scanning through here.
I see, I just asked for the percentages, if you could do that.
I don't have the percentages.
so John, how do you get these price increases? I mean, all of the adjustments that I saw were up. There weren't any that were down. So I think it'd be fairer to call them price increases
Yep,
rather than adjustments.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
where do these come from? Are these granted to you by the state? Or, I'm just, excuse my ignorance in not knowing the process. So how do these price increases come about?
Yeah, well, it's totally deregulated, but the majority of the costs come from our programming fees going up. You know, we have to pay programmers for the content, and we just sort of pass it along. So we're paying billions and billions of dollars to the programmers. It's not free, and we're just passing along those costs.
Okay, so there's no state oversight on the fees. You don't necessarily have to justify them or show your base costs. You may, and I'm not trying to start an argument, I'm just trying to understand that when you make these adjustments, which usually come about every April or so, you just can make the adjustments as a company and then pass them on.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a rate expert, but that's generally speaking the way it is, yes.
I have a series of 5 questions I'd like to ask all at once, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Good idea.
Okay. From what I heard, you said the reason for the subscriber price increases is programming fees and rising costs. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Do you know how much the average Southern Berkshire resident would, how much would it cost the average resident in additional costs over the course of the year?
It depends what they get. If they get
Yeah.
basic TV or,
Well, let's say basic for a start.
Would it surprise you if it was $161 a year?
I don't know,
This is how I
Most
came
people
up
don't
with
get
it.
basic
basic.
service?
Most
Yeah,
people
I
don't
said
do basic.
a person, a typical subscriber would have
For basic cable TV only?
a TV select. Okay?
Yeah,
That's a
basic
kind of a
isn't worth
basic
talking
rate.
about because
Each
so
would
few
get a
people
broadcast
it.
surcharge to the tune of $41 a month. Everyone who has a digital receiver, people have probably 2 TV sets, that's 2. They also have digital terminal adapters, which are the internet interface. They'd have one of those, and each it has a cable card. So I come up with $161 a year. Does that seem right?
I believe if the
Yeah.
math is right.
Yeah, and you stated that the reason for the rate increase was programming fees and rising costs, correct? So I'm curious if Spectrum's costs have increased for the cable boxes that residents already have in their homes.
Mhm.
These are boxes that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Have Spectrum's cost increased based on those sets in subscriber homes?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a rate expert. I don't know how they calculate that equipment.
Well, I don't think so. I think that's a cost that's already been set, yet you're increasing the cost for the subscribers in Sheffield, Lee, Great Barrington, Lennox.
Mhm.
That's an increase. That has nothing to do with your costs or your programming. That's a cost that you're adding to the subscribers, to the tune of $161 a year. So those extra boxes, just for 2, is $48 a year. And while many businesses have suffered under the pandemic, Spectrum hasn't suffered at all, have they?
Well, same as any other business, I would say.
Yeah, are you aware of the Spectrum's net income numbers that just reported over the last year?
Mhm.
Are you?
Mhm. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly,
It
but
was $4.65 billion. That's a record 44% last year over year. 44.
Significant,
plus
would you
pence.
say?
Yeah, and I thought, well, gee, that's an anomaly? Nope.
Not an anomaly.
No, the year before, 2020, Spectrum reported $3.22 billion, or 93% year-over-year increase. Yeah, was that an anomaly? Nope. In 2019, it was 35.61% increase over 2018, $1.6 billion. That's a lot of money. So in 2019, 35% increase, 2020, 93% increase, and in 2021, year just closed a couple months ago, it was 44% increase. And from an outsider's perspective, it's based on, these charges that occur, seems like more than once a year, are much more the inflation rate. And I don't know, the Spectrum seems to be out of touch with its own customers. Programming fees and rising costs may be at play, but continuing even increasing the string of record corporate net income numbers seem to be more likely the cause. And we received 45 written complaints over the past month about Spectrum TV that I'm going to give to you. I think that you should read them. And I think that you should pass them along to your management.
And we should get a response to what they read.
Well, I think we should do something a little bit better. I mean, John is the messenger, okay?
Maybe the messenger, but he
He's-
works for the company.
Yeah,
It is,
I
but
know,
this
Bobby, let
committee
me finish.
cannot negotiate rates or programming.
Yeah.
That's out of our
So
scope.
We're allowed to get information, right?
We're allowed to provide
they're not
input
going to
of our
give it
residents,
to you.
yes.
They're not going to tell you their programming costs. We have asked for that many, many times. But I think what's important is that a message is being given. It may continue to be given at this meeting to John. But John is in a position that, with all due respect, I don't think you can do anything except carry back to your bosses that, this cable committee is shocked and outraged by the increases that have been put in place effective April 1st. What I think we need to do is, and I do know that Charter makes a lot of that money by acquiring other companies. So it's not a true year-to-year comparison as a company that didn't do a lot of acquisitions. Charter is known for
It's complicated.
acquisitions. But I think what we should do is put this in a letter and forward it, not that I'd expect it to do anything good, but forward it to the CEO of Charter as well as our respective AG, blah, 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 down the list, the usual people. Because John's not in a position where he can do anything except to take it to his supervisor. And he can this isn't even a letter that we're giving him. So, if we want to rake him over the coals a little bit more, that's great. But I think the thing we need to do is take some action that at least puts in writing our dissatisfaction and shares that with people who maybe need to be awakened to this at the state level. Because there's nothing we can do
Okay.
at
Is
this
that
issue, except,
I'll take the very probably unpopular approach. I think that that's not in this board's discretion to be going after pricing and programming. This goes back to deregulation. When you have a monopoly in an area, you have no options. That's the issue. The rest of it is just, you can fiddle around whatever you want with the rest. They're gonna charge what we want. Any letters we send, to me, is a waste of time, because the whole thing around deregulation was to bring in competition. And what the state failed to do is in any way get competition in the area. And then you saw, because I remember back to when I was on the first one in North County almost 18 years ago, there was still I think it was Vermont Cable, Benny, I forget who it was.
It was Adelphia.
There was Adelphia, but there was Benny something else. And then as time, they've been monopolized even more. So right now, what you've got is a situation where we're better off looking at how options can be brought in. Is there anything that be done in a way to create competition, which may end up happening in the next couple of years because of Verizon and their 5G efforts to put the box in their home Wi-Fi and create cable television options, which would then put the pressure on Adelphia Comcast. What is it now?
it's Charter.
Sorry.
So many.
Comcast, Adelphia.
So many.
We're with you.
I think they're spot on, Mike.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, so that's what you have. The rest of it to talk about, deregulation is the law. They're not gonna change it.
So Michael, I have a
So-
question for your knowledge, and that is, first of all, when does the contract renew? And second of all, how sequestered are we per town? Because if we were a region,
We are a region, we're 5 towns.
Yeah, we're 5 to, but
we're 5 towns.
February
We're
28th,
32 towns in the
2023.
county,
Yeah.
but we're 40 million people within 3 hours, and that's the way we should be serviced.
It's not going to happen,
It's-
Bobby.
Yeah, the way they deregulated things, that won't happen.
It's like
It's-
it got gerrymandered out.
Well, but the other problem is that owning the lines, owning the ability to get to distribute, you're gonna end up having competition, but until it happens,
But how do we generate competition is really the question.
Get
yeah.
our own systems.
Yeah, this is a discussion
install
that we
our
should
own
have.
This
in
town
front of,
system.
this is not for.
That's how you
this
get
is-
competition.
this
But
is-
right, I was more pointing to the fact that wasting the time to write letters and other things to complain about pricing, A, when it's not really in the cable advisory's mission.
I disagree with you that it's not in the mission. I don't disagree with you that it probably doesn't amount to anything. But it does
It does make a
do
record.
something. It puts it on the record. And I think that's important. I do think it is within this committee's purview to make comments about pricing.
Well, we can make-
I
right.
agree.
Comment, I guess you can
I'm not
make-
asking anyone, I mean, the letter is more to, if we voted to do it, is to establish our dissatisfaction.
Right.
And
other big
let the other
problem-
people know that this is
One
the
at
way
a
it
time,
is.
please.
The other big problem is that in the high population areas, Boston, other places, there is competition.
Of course,
There's multiple cable providers that are fighting over the same customers.
of course.
This is really a rural issue that no one other than, depending on what area you're in, but in our area, it's just one provider. And until that changes,
But
Well,
Denise is right.
Satellite's an option for video.
No, it isn't.
Elon Musk is going to come to our rescue.
Because there's,
so
If we get attacked.
and satellite here is, you'd have, the topography is not conducive to satellites, okay? You have mountains, you can't.
Elon Musk
can't
did
get
actually
that
do a
satellite.
test.
You have forests, you
Here.
can't get through.
This is the
It's not,
FCC
yeah,
order
and you
in
have,
2019
condominiums
that said
that
there's
don't
effective
allow them.
competition.
And you have, the small-
yeah, because they do
you
claim
have,
satellite, yes, right.
No, it's
But
not,
there is,
it's
but
not
it's not.
competitive. There, you don't
It's-
find much in
we
the
know.
way of satellite here at all.
There's a story
Very
behind that.
little. But John, that notwithstanding, I want to ask you a
We
question.
know it's not a realistic.
I want to ask you a question. I'm looking at the equipment increase prices. That's something that you do have control of.
And we already have the equipment.
Yeah, it's equipment that's sitting in our homes, it hasn't changed, you haven't upgraded it, you haven't done anything, you're just charging more for it. Why?
I don't know.
Could you find that out, please?
Sure.
Thank you. And I want to ask another question about the equipment. Why is it that it fails so regularly? In the last 2 years, I have exchanged probably 5 boxes. Okay? I have another one right now that is about to be exchanged, but I will call up and I will make a service call and just have it verified that it is the box. Because what happens with these boxes, because they are, I don't know, which bargain basement Spectrum gets them from, but they tend to lose their ability to keep sync of video and audio, so that you have a person and the voice coming up a full second later. It's not only disconcerting, it's something that I want to throw a shoe at the box. So I
It's
just,
not what you're paying for.
pardon me?
It's not what you're paying for.
It's, I have, and I know that it is the box, because A, it has happened before, and B, I have 2 other boxes on 2 other sets in the house, which are fine, they synchronize.
So there's 2 boxes that are fine, but in the third TV, you've had 5 different boxes.
This is a relatively new TV set, too.
But 2 TVs have had the same box for years.
No.
Oh,
No, all of them in the last 2 years have changed, at least once. 2 of them more than once.
I've had the same boxes in my house for years. I have multiple boxes.
Well,
That doesn't make
it
it-
just shows you've got old boxes that are the good old boxes. These are not.
I haven't heard any particular complaints about boxes.
Well, you just heard one.
I know, your house.
And you will find that we will be able to give you some more complaints about boxes.
The more specifics, the better.
So would this group like me to try and compose a letter, possibly work with Dennis, since he seems to be the one who's so much on top of this, and then forward it to our chair? Okay, I mean, I'd like to kind of move on in this meeting, and we can sit here for 30
I was
minutes
going to say,
and
so
such,
we're
but
finished with
if
this
the group
section.
doesn't want me to work on a letter, then I don't want to waste my time on it.
I think you should.
I think you should. Good idea.
Okay, so Dennis, would you work with me on that?
Sure. A
Okay.
letter to Spectrum, or to the DTC, or to?
Yes,
To
yes,
all.
yes,
To
yes.
all.
Yeah, we can work on who gets copy,
Okay.
but, yeah, thank you.
And you're going to send me a rate sheet, John? I sent you a note earlier this morning.
Yes.
Yeah, it's impossible to find anything other than teaser rates on the website.
The rate cards.
Huh?
Yes, the rate cards.
Yeah.
Send you the rate cards.
Yeah, thank you.
That's another question that I would like to ask you is, why is it so difficult to find your rate card?
For the public?
Yeah. Should be available on your website.
Yeah, no. I don't know why it is.
Well, can I just
So we have-
ask you to request of your,
If you punch in your name and address, you can't get the rates.
not really, no. I mean, you have to chase through a maze to get at it.
Yeah,
So,
and why would you have to put your name and address to get a rate sheet of what Spectrum charges? You
Well,
just
just
see
if
the
you're a
issue.
customer.
how about just your zip code?
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Mm.
So can we just, you have a very sophisticated website. It's so sophisticated that people can't figure out how to use it. So I think it's time that you take back some word to your, whoever does your websites, that it should be simplified so that people, and make it user-friendly, that's the term that people.
I'm pretty
like.
good, and it's not there, period.
What?
The rates are not there.
No, I'm just saying, there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that is there, that you have to
Okay, let's
be
put it in,
ingenious to
let's
find
put it in the letter. I think those are
Yeah.
very good points. What's
I wrote it
next?
down.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not in their best interest.
John, do you have anything else
I don't
that you wanted
disagree
to
with
say
you at
besides
all.
what you just gave us?
No,
There's a lot of comments, John, on of what we received, that people are still getting their bill the day it's due, or
Yeah.
and they ended up getting charged a late fee. And this is something that I think we've talked about over the last couple of months, and I hope that you've been trying to solve it, but it's not solved yet, from the comments that this committee has received. So if you could look into it again and just, raise that up the flagpole, that would be helpful.
okay.
John, how long does it take to get a late fee put on your bill? How much time between,
I think it's like 60 days.
okay, a few
You have
times I've
30
had,
days to pay it, and then it doesn't go into collections till 60 days.
That's collections. What about the late fee?
yeah,
I think it's 60 days,
You think. How long have you worked at Spectrum and Charter?
a few years.
A few days?
Years.
You should know that, John. You know, you've said, I don't know,
We've been
13
through it
times.
Before at this meeting in detail.
But this is your job. How many towns do you go speak to on a regular basis?
Not many.
Well, we want you to be more prepared. We're all sophisticated, we're volunteers, and we
I've told
expect
this committee
answers.
the specifics before, I just don't recall off the top of my head.
Well, the user, we all were digital. You can check what you said, what you wrote. And if you didn't say it, write it. We want it written.
Yeah, so can the committee. Look
Good.
what I already told you.
So has the Great Barrington zip code problem
that
been
was taken
solved?
care, that was taken care of.
Okay, fine, that,
Yeah.
I do think people are asking for where can they get a rate card. That shouldn't be something that you have to do flips to get. Everybody should be subject to the same rate card. And this issue about late billing, John, this issue of getting bills just a few days before they're due and not having the time, especially with the mail, to turn it around. If you can find out for us when a late fee does get assessed, that would be great. And if
It's
you can
30
forward-
days. I already looked
It's
it up.
30 days?
And
You
it's
looked it up. Great.
$8.95 for a late fee.
Really? So that's about,
All right, so the person then has 30 days after they get the bill, even if it's due the next couple of days, to send it.
This is what the website says, yeah. I don't know if it's increased.
All right, so when
over-
we get calls about people who are getting late fees charged, that should be what we talk to them about. And then if it's different, they should call and
are
register
you
a
reading
complaint.
something from the charter?
From Spectrum's
Spectrum?
website, yeah.
So maybe what we do is we put that, you can digitally send to them so they have it in writing too.
Yeah.
Build a case.
I've told this committee before, Spectrum's online billing process is pretty nice. Once you put your credit card in, you put a maximum amount that you'll pay every month, and it just gets done.
Yeah,
You
a
don't
lot
have
of
to worry
people
about it.
don't want to pay, they don't want to put their credit card out there.
Yeah,
There's not the faith in that. And so I think the people who are paying by credit card are not suffering these problems. It's the people who are getting a paper bill
yeah,
and who write a check and then
Yeah.
send it back.
yeah.
Well, a paper bill and paying by credit card there's a non sequitur there, because I get paper bills because, two reasons. One is I like to have that receipt, and the other is because I like to know when it was received by me as chairman of this committee. So I get a paper bill, and it generally arrives on or about the due date. It may be a day early. It often is 2 days later. And that's not 30 days.
No, there's no assessed penalty till 30 days after.
That is correct.
Yeah, 30 days is plenty of
So you
time.
have 30
to pay.
days from the date you
That's
My
received.
my credit card gives me
Yes,
15.
but
I get a due date,
there are a lot of people
Yeah.
who don't
Yeah.
understand that they have that 30 days, and they panic when they
Mm-hmm.
receive a bill the bill is received after the date due. Particularly older people.
One of the complaints that was on the sheet that you were given said that Lee doesn't accept payment any longer. I didn't realize that they stopped accepting payment. Is that true?
I'm sorry,
In the Lee office, can you pay your bill?
as far as I know you can.
Okay, one of the complaints on that list that he gave you said they no longer accept payment. Please look into that.
Okay.
And
Give them the time to
I had to
decide.
go there last week, and they don't have their hours posted on the door. It just says blank AM, blank PM, closed for lunch.
Is this charter, Spectrum?
Spectrum office in Lee, yes.
And then on Silver Street?
Yep,
Yeah.
They used to.
I know. They used to, what? I knew they used to accept payment, because in the
Yeah.
past I've been there and
They used
people
to
were
also
paying the
have
bill.
their-
But now all I know is what was on that sheet. So I just want clarification regarding that. And John, I couldn't exchange my equipment there because they said they didn't have any. It was a router and modem, and they said they didn't have them there. Did you look into that?
Yeah, I talked to the store manager, and she said it was an inventory issue, that they just ran out of inventory. It's kind of unusual that that would happen, but they ran out of inventory when you were there.
Oh,
That shows you how frequently people have to turn them in and how poor they are in terms of their performance.
I went to Pittsfield, they had tons of them. There was no problem.
Are you trying to close down that office?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Would you check into that one?
Sure.
So
Okay,
we've asked a lot of questions. How do we get answers and when?
Here's the questions, and I will state when I would like an answer by, when I'm finished with my questions, okay? Thank you.
Perfect.
In our agreement, it says that you will maintain an office, a convenient office. I believe the word convenient is in there, but I could look that up easily enough. But if you're here in Sheffield and you call Lee convenient, that shows you how poorly we would take it if that Lee office closed, because that would mean going even further from Sheffield, from
Well, in the
Great
contract,
Barrington.
it actually says that they have to give us a certain number of days' notice if they're going to close it.
No, I don't think so.
But even so, a few days' notice doesn't stop them from closing.
No, I think you're wrong on that one, Renee,
And
sorry.
if they're not, then we should find out about
What was the question, Renee?
They have to give us notice if they're going to close the office. I don't remember how
It
much
says that
notice
they
it
must
is.
maintain an office that is in a location.
That's how I've read the contract, because I made a note on it when I read it the last time, about a month ago.
Well,
We
we'll
hung on
iron
to that in the
but
last
any case,
negotiation.
We would not take too fondly to that office closing. Because that, amongst other things, people go in there to exchange equipment because they don't want to
Or
wait.
to actually make a complaint.
Did you find it, Dennis?
Finish.
Did you find
Let me
it?
finish, please.
I'm looking.
If they have, they're taking,
See if I
they're
can
going
find
to
it.
that office to exchange equipment to save time, not have to wait 3 days for somebody to show up and tell them, oh, yeah, you need a box, I don't have one on my truck. Or, yes, you don't have to come to the office, we'll send it to you. Duh, deliveries these days? No. That we would take very unkindly to any changes that took place in that office.
And it's unfortunate.
Except perhaps improving it, having an extra person so the line
Right
isn't
here.
so long, and having more, making sure that inventory is kept at a good level.
It'd be nice if you could contact them to know if they had the equipment. I mean, there is
I
a
need
phone
to
number in the
understand
phone book, but it's
exactly what
Spectrum's 800-866 number.
mission is,
You cannot contact the store directly.
That'd be nice.
because I'm lost.
Pardon me?
I'm lost in what this board's mission is. I've been on cable advisory boards
It's called,
before.
it's
I know
called
that, but
oversight.
we focus on the things that are in our contract, we make sure they're being enforced, and we make sure that they're living up to them. I know, before I left North Adams, we were looking at it, and we ended up in a dispute over, and had an external audit, you guys ended up paying North Adams, how much? It was in the contract. Do you deal with North Adams or not?
No, I'm not familiar with
All right,
that.
you're not familiar with that, but it was a focus in the contract that they weren't part of the
Yeah,
calculation fee, and it was an article.
yes, because.
So, but we kept very focused on the mission of the board, the enforcement of the contract, instead of getting into, I don't know, I don't feel like we're very productive. That, I'm just gonna say that as far as, and I'm sorry, I know I've only been now to 3 meetings, but I've just seen it continue. How do we make it more productive so that when his time's here, we're addressing the concerns that are in the contract, the things that are enforceable under this board's, such as dealing with complaints, we have issues if we want
That's what
complaint
we
sheets
do.
and other stuff. No, I hear a lot of just this, that, on an individual basis instead of looking at the whole picture. So I think that, maybe I'm just off base, but I'm just trying to find,
I think you need to see what we do a little bit more, and understand what we do a little bit more.
we spend a lot of time talking about rates and other things when it's not
Well,
underneath
we're
ours.
hearing this from people.
That's okay, and I've dealt with this before, and we make sure to understand that the role of this board isn't about the rates and
It's,
the programming.
it's
but
about
the
oversight.
quality of the programming, making sure that
No, it isn't. We
Right.
don't have any
Maybe-
control over the programming whatsoever.
No, the quality of the programming, such as they're supposed to deliver certain levels. With CTSB, they're supposed to deliver certain levels of speed and other issues, and
yes, that-
which we need to make sure those are happening. I guess it's just, maybe I need to understand, maybe,
Maybe you
I
need
know
to
that
have,
we've,
maybe you need to have attended more
If I could
meetings
come
to
to-
know that we have been addressing that and continue to address that.
Well, I have to agree a little bit with this. I'm sticking my neck out, but I've been on this committee for, it's not my favorite committee. I don't care for these meetings because I think, to some extent, we never get anything accomplished. Now, we get into personal discussions about, like Linda, you just did with all due respect, about your cable box not working. I don't really care about your cable box not working. I care about the context of cable boxes in general have a quality problem. That I care about, but I don't care about everybody particular cable box. Call service, get it done. That's one of the reasons I don't care for this meeting. I'm on a lot of committees, but nobody else will step up to this in Sheffield. We should be, I agree with you, we should be focusing on the larger issues. John has not given us the answers for quite a while about the issue of how are we counting complaints. That we should be focused on. You know, I really, again, if it's a complaint on the cable box, register it. We should be focusing on, is the office open? Do we know when it's going to be open? Have they changed the service without telling us? In other words, they're not doing bill paying, or they don't have the proper level of inventory. I'd like to have it be a little bit more global myself if we're bringing up issues as to how this board could potentially do its job differently. I'm not going to say better, I'm going to say differently. That's what I'm really interested in. I'm interested in answering complaints or helping people who are in Sheffield who cannot get the service they need, not get the response they need, not get their bills paid. But I don't bring them all to this board and discuss each one of them. If I can't get it solved with John, I will bring it to this board. All right, so I'd like to, you know, we're opening the door to some potential restructuring here. And I'd like to see us move this discussion up a little bit to deal with the global issues rather than our own personal issues.
Renee, just for your edification, I bring up the problems that I have because I know other people have them as well.
Yeah.
It is a problem. The problems that I have with Spectrum, I am quite certain are not unique.
Well then, you know,
Now, wait a minute.
I still stand by what I said.
Okay, that's it, on that question, yes.
If I can, I was very concerned last time when we had raised the issue that we were told there were 0 complaints, I believe it was.
Yes, that's what we were
And
told.
they're supposed to be logging the complaints, and I haven't felt like that, you know, to me, that's the bigger global question. Are either complaints not happening? What level are they? I still don't fully understand where that is, and that's one I think we should be focusing on.
It's
So that
It's
is,
being addressed.
It's being addressed by council.
all right,
And it's not for a topic for this meeting right now.
right.
And I
But
can,
those are, that's just an example of the global ones that I think I would like to see.
You know, every 3 months we meet. If this is a global issue, you know, are they not recording the complaints correctly? They're not conforming to the state's requirements of complaints or the FCC complaints. We should not go 6 months without, this should be an item that's reported on it every month. Okay, I think the report at this month is, it's being addressed with council, it's being determined what type of things can be done. That's a report, that's something we all need to hear. Then it goes to the next meeting, which will be in June, and there should be some very clear answers on that. But, you know, again, I think we need to raise the level, and maybe for the next meeting,
John,
each of us should decide what are the global issues that we should be
Renee.
focused on.
that's it, thank you. John, all these questions that we have brought up to you now, that we've asked you, we would like answers, and we would like them within 30 days.
In writing,
Yes,
in writing.
okay. Do we have any more questions for John?
No.
Okay, thank you, John.
You're welcome. And
Thanks,
as I
Jeff.
said, please call me anytime, or Tom reached out to me about an issue anytime, not just yourselves.
I have found you
all
to be
your
very
constituents.
responsive. There's not a lot you can do sometimes, but other times you've really moved the ball forward and gotten complaints resolved. So I appreciate that. I haven't had to call you for a while. But, we know, when I do, you do get it resolved, or we know that it can't be resolved.
Right.
And that's an answer.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a member of the community here, I believe.
No, he's just waiting to take me home because I can't, because I still can't drive.
Okay,
So I do have one question I want to ask Michael. Tell us about North Adams and how we can apply it to our committee.
Well, I was just saying that.
No, you were
We
successful.
make sure to concentrate on the issues that we can take action on.
Right.
And I would personally like to see this committee focus on that, spending lots of time discussing rates and other things which we do not have control of. Seems to me like not wasted. Well, the complaint issue, I would have loved to have seen this meeting after 3 months, something from our council. Here's where we're at, we've started to examine this issue, here's where we're standing as far as.
I agree with everything you've said tonight. There's not one thing I haven't disagreed with. But I think that there's action that each one of us can take, maybe independently of this committee, to increase competition for broadband, to lobby the state and federal officials over that order right there, and a more friendly FCC board might pass something like that. So there's things that I think that we can do above and beyond the scope of this committee.
And there's also a lot of money for infrastructure, broadband and cell, and is very much part of it.
Yeah.
And it's also designated specifically for rural communities. So Renee's,
it's
I
not
know-
so easy to get a hold of.
Not quite yet. What's being designated at the state level so far is for non-served. The Egermonts, previously it was Otis. So we have fallen in this committee, our towns have fallen into the problem of being served, but now underserved. Because whereas before we were ahead of the game, we are now behind the game. I have, on my own for Sheffield, spoken with MBI, spoken with our number of people in the general court, and right now, there's not a lot of money coming our way because we are served. Now, we're hoping, we've been trying to make the case, including at the Massachusetts Municipal Association, that now we need to take the second look at helping those communities such as ourselves who potentially may want to look at building out our own network. Where do we get the money for that? And MBI has no money at the present time to support that. There's no money that they feel is in their view. However, there's supposed to be a lot of money, there's supposed to be a lot of money for everything in this infrastructure bill. So we shouldn't lose faith, but they're not focused on us at either the federal or the state level right now. That may change in 6 months. But right now,
I think, I'm looking 6 months ahead, and I think
Yeah.
that money is definitely coming. But
all right.
I want to ask you one more question, and that is what, now I forgot.
Okay, so we have another report.
Afterwards.
Dennis has a report.
And so
License
just to
renewal.
follow up, $23,000 is what North Adams received.
Oh, all right.
The lawyer sent a note, same topic as ours, almost verbatim about complaints, and guess what? No resolution through their lawyer. So evidently it's complicated.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I know it's
We're
complicated.
not done with it.
Right.
So Cable Committee subcommittee of which Renee, Linda, and I are members, have been conducting a formal review on ascertainment of 5 town needs and services received on the current Spectrum cable license, which expires in February 28th.
You're not reading loud enough for the
Sorry.
background.
So what's entertainment? It's defined as the act of learning with certainty. Specifically, for our cable committee, it's a series of actions taken before the license renewal negotiation to, 1, review the cable operator's performance on the existing license, and 2, to identify the cable-relating needs and interests of the community. The process is judiciously defined by both state and federal law. Our goal is to complete the process in the first half of 2022, which is just a few short months, provide Spectrum with our findings, and then work toward a mutually agreed-to license agreement that best meets the needs of our Southern Berkshire residents. It should be noted that under both state and federal law, no cable operator may construct or operate a cable TV system in a community without first obtaining a license, but that same law protects the cable operator's investment in a community from an unfair denial of a license renewal. It's a mutually agreed-to contract by both parties. To set expectations, both state and federal law prohibit our committee from negotiating either cost or programming. So fortunately, we can't lower the cost of cable service, prohibit teaser rates, change channel lineups, bring Massachusetts network programming, including the Red Sox, the Patriot games, back to residents. And you might ask, well, if programming are off, cost of programming are off the table, what's left? There's lots. But unfortunately, not rates of programming, or even areas of dominant influence that prevents Southern Berkshires from receiving mass channels. Since the subcommittee's last meeting, we've taken a deep dive in the current contract, highlighted areas which, in our opinion, needed improvement. We've reviewed Spectrum Charter's annual complaint form, of which I think for our Stockbridge there's 4. I think for
Sheffield, I think it was 3.
Yeah, and found it lacking. The subscriber base is about 6,800, yet Spectrum reported just 24 complaints all year, a 0.003%. And last year you only had 1 complaint. Yeah, and it doesn't sound right. And one personal red flag was the 0 reported for complaints in the reception of Lennox, of which I'm a resident. Well, I live in Lennox, and both my neighbors and I complained about the poor reception. So I'm certain that they were never recorded. They're
And John has
masking the true number.
verified that.
Huh?
John has verified that at this meeting as to how they handle complaints.
He offered in the last meeting an FCC response to complaints, but he did not acknowledge the mass order that requires they record all complaints. So for us, it highlighted the need for a representative survey to more accurately gauge the opinions of our residents. To that end, we distributed the survey to get that input, of which you've seen some of it, which we just started. We have it on only Stockbridge and Lennox Town Hall, Post Office, and on their websites, and we're going to expand that to Great Barrington, Sheffield, and to Lee soon.
So I spoke to Chris Britton, our town manager, and they'll do whatever we want.
He's going to help us get it
He's
up
gonna
on
help us get
SurveyMonkey.
it up
Yeah.
on, digitally all
Yeah.
across the board, with the ability to respond digitally off of the
I
website.
think that we'll do that.
Yeah, I've spoken to him.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Perfect. Super. Yeah,
We've-
yeah, I just came back from my trip and I spoke to him. That's great.
We're comparing, contrasting, and benchmarking other recently negotiated license agreements in Mass. We have visibility across the whole state, 427 agreements that we can see and compare. Also, not just with Charter, but with Verizon and Comcast, and we've learned a lot. We've learned that when there's competition in some of those communities, the rates don't change.
Oh, really?
No.
What does change?
Broadband changes, but not cable TV rates. And I don't know, I made it, the Spectrum Charter's making a lot of money, but they're making the money through broadband, not so much on cable TV.
Yeah, cable.
From what my read of their financial reports. We've worked with Rich on putting together a long-term financial plan, which I think we're going to need for the negotiations. We've talked about the complaint about the the PEG channels, the public education government channels being at 1301, 2, and 3. And you can see some of the comments from customers that they have the same complaints. Especially elderly people have a tough time finding those things. So it's very difficult. We need community TV that's accessible to all. We've requested and received discovery information. John and Linda and I have been exchanging a gazillion notes as early as, or as late, just this morning, and he's gotten back. He's been very good about getting back to us. Sometimes he doesn't provide the answer, but he gets back to us.
That's
Yeah,
the Mets.
yeah.
Yeah,
I like John, I really do.
I don't mind him, but, you know,
Look, he's
he's,
just a messenger.
he's,
Somebody.
he is
Yeah.
a messenger, but at times he's a lazy messenger.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You'd be
So-
frustrated.
Did you say lazy?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope you're capitalizing those 4 letters.
We've
You
worked
know,
through Chris Ketchen, the Lennox town manager, and we've received legal counsel from William Hewitt. He works for KP Law on matters before the committee. We have his letter, which was kind of mixed. And I think for
Mixed that it wasn't hard enough on
Mixed.
the spectrum.
No,
the
it
results,
was-
it's just complicated,
Yeah,
Bobby. It's just
very
complicated.
complicated.
Because it's not just the legal agreement, it's also state and federal law, and it's a whole bunch of stuff. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. So we've begun drafting a 5-town ascertainment report that we're going to make available to you, the town leaders and the board of selectmen, in anticipation of the negotiations, which I think you're going to be, will provide much more information on competitive rates, things that we can do to encourage competition. So lastly, we feel a number of complaints about the improperly addressed billing, timely billing, and we've just talked about that. To summarize, the ultimate goal of the subcommittee is to take a comprehensive review and in-depth analysis of our community's cable-related needs and ultimately negotiate the best cable TV license agreement renewal possible for our communities. And I'd like to thank Linda for her experience in leading us through the process, and for Renee for her just invaluable experience with town government, and frankly, it's been invaluable for the efforts of the committee.
Well,
Yeah,
I
sorry to
think
make that
there's
so long.
2 things that you have missed. One, well, no, this has been, I've just been kind of on the periphery and then doing some analysis of the contract. But Linda and Dennis have really done an incredible job. But you also have gotten commitments from every town to provide funding for legal services as needed. That's big, okay? That's really important. And second of all, Dennis continues to amaze me by his interest in finding things out there, okay? He's a real
It's
good
become a battle
researcher.
to me.
Yeah, and he has found probably, as far as you know, the only charter contract renewal.
I look probably every couple of weeks, and the Department of Telecommunications and Cable has a website where you can
Yeah.
find your cable's license.
Yeah.
Well, there are PDF links, download it, sort it. I have some macros that pull out the dates that they were done, and just like that, I can tell who it's from, what the date is, and it makes it easy, so it's not a lot of work anymore.
But you have found it.
I do.
So he has a sense
Yeah.
of what a potential charter contract could look like. Okay, so that's being
I
looked
can
at.
forward you that if you'd like.
Yeah, yeah, and then I think everyone will be involved as things get further down the line. But
Yeah.
the group has done an
Yeah,
incredible amount of work. both-
We're getting ready to get to the stage where we will be holding the hearings, public hearings, which we have to do. Last time around, we held one large public meeting for all 5 towns. And actually, because we did publicize it, we took some money and ran an ad. I think we had, if my memory serves me correctly, we had about 40 people show up.
It's not very much.
For these towns?
Actually, for.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is. Bobby, sorry.
Wait a minute.
Bobby?
I've
For
also,
these towns, that's very good turnout.
you know, when we did the studio in Lee, we had 300 people on a Saturday and 60 people afterwards at my home for dinner. So I think that we can do better in any case. Whatever we had, I think that this is such a pressing issue. And if we want the Berkshires to grow as a community, then we've got to figure out how to hold every vendor's feet to the fire to get what we need within the law. And the law is still a little fungible. The research that you've done is extraordinary,
Yeah.
Dennis has
really
done an
extraordinary.
incredible job.
And I'm aware, if you look on even Spectrum, like if you're just on our internet for like, I forget what it is, $29.99, you can get X stations of your choice.
Right,
You know, an a la carte system.
right.
That's what you see more of, you know, we got families in that live in, that's what's happening. The only problem with us pushing competition is competition isn't cable, it's programming over the internet.
That's
Which
right.
will hurt, like CTSB, stuff like that. That's where the competition's coming.
Yeah, I think we
mean,
talked about this before. We receive cable over the internet right now
yeah.
through Spectrum.
That's right.
So it's no different.
Yeah.
Right, it's no different, and I'm just saying that, but they don't have to do license agreements, so like the competition that's gonna come in here
Right,
is gonna be like Verizon offering a package over their internet,
right.
not coming in here and trying to run a broadcast television.
Yeah,
Things
I don't want you
are
to
very
take
much
this
changing.
away. I'll send you a copy of it, but
I was-
it talks about that in here, and it's
Can-
just laughable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just a macro
Considering-
point. I'm sorry, Linda, you said there were 427 towns in Massachusetts that negotiate spectrum.
Agreements on
Spectrum.
file. Some towns have multiple agreements.
Yeah,
So if we had blockchain, if we had that as a goal, this isn't our committee, but I want us to think about it. If we had a digital ledger, that would save everybody extraordinary amount of money.
So this is the
Yeah.
listing of it, and you can
Amazing,
read
isn't
it.
it?
You can tell me
71.
how many I have
71.
duplicates or some have Verizon. Verizon is the second most popular,
Yeah.
but I think that you're spot on when you said that the 5G home internet will be the next step. SpaceX is there.
yeah.
and where you see it right now is like cell phones.
Yeah.
It was unheard of that existing customers could get the new deals, but because competition has become so great, now they're struggling to keep their customers. That's why all of a sudden, in the last, 6 months to a year, all of a sudden, stay with AT&T, we offer the same deal for new or existing customers, because they
Right.
started losing customers. They have no fear of us right now of losing customers in the Berkshires.
But they are losing
Yes, they-
customers.
They
They
are,
are
but they're
losing.
losing them to themselves. They're losing to their internet side.
Yeah.
Or to
That's-
Correct.
T-Mobile is now offering.
Right, but cable, right, is, the big one right now is, I've, like myself, family members and others, none of us have cable.
Yeah,
I don't
We're
know.
all getting internet from Spectrum.
right.
Yeah.
A lot of us have those extra channels.
So
for just-
basically, some of what I think John was talking about when he was talking about the fees being raised, which you're right, we can't do anything about. But we, if we want to protest them, you feel good about it, you feel like you wrote a letter, you're dividing those costs over a smaller pool. So, of course,
I think it would be in our advantage to begin explaining why these higher costs, because the pool's going lower.
I'm not interested in explaining to people.
No, I was gonna say-
They're mad enough. I
was
don't want
gonna
to be
say,
a Spectrum
I agree with
salesperson.
Renee on that,
You know,
absolutely.
I mean-
The younger generation isn't buying
Yeah,
cable. I mean, that's why you're gonna see places like, where's baseball gonna go? Where's
All right,
all those gonna go?
Exactly.
Because no one's gonna spend the money they used to on cable packages.
all right, but consider
So-
that one thing that we have to deal with, and it's a very important thing, and that is our community television.
How do we keep that?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And-
I think that's our number one goal.
I do
It is, and because we don't have any other local television, period.
Yeah.
We have New York, and I don't mean New York City, I mean Albany and, all the Poughkeepsie and all of those. You can find out who got killed in any one of the towns that are part of the, quote, Capital District. Real fast. You can't find out what's happening here. Actually, now we can, sort of. But it's so little.
But that's because of the FCC regulation, which says we're
That,
in
well,
the region.
that's part of, but we have to stand our ground as much as we can, and then take our model and say, look, other towns who have this problem, you can do this too, and if we all work through our legislators, we can get this fixed. And it's got to be legislation.
I'll pull a doom and gloom thing. I think you're on either your last contract or second to last contract before cable television.
Exactly.
I absolutely
So-
agree.
So
Absolutely.
if,
So how do we?
So we have
think
a
about-
$500,000 community TV budget that we need to think about.
So I think the issue is, and I think this is good discussion, because I don't know that we have to date focus. We haven't started as a subcommittee to prioritize our priorities, okay? That will, where's the hard stops, where's, et cetera. Because
We're still in ascertainment.
so that will be done.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing tonight is that we need to put extra emphasis on our CTSB. And so whether that is in negotiating our PEG rates, or whether that is in, I don't know where, I'm gonna have to go back and look at the contract, but that's something, and that's something that possibly this cable advisory committee should take on over the next period of time to find other sources and to promote those partnerships, expand. And again, that's not, where is that in our charter, except to keep CTSB alive.
Yeah.
If we want to have town governance and education and public events done. So I think that's one we ought to put down on our list.
The answer, I think, for the funding PEG channels is what Rich has highlighted in his annual report, and that's state legislation to charge the same pass-through 5% fee that the Spectrum does with Netflix and Hulu and
Yeah.
YouTube TV.
Yeah.
Well, and
That's one vehicle to make that happen.
did that case ever get settled? Remember there was a case that they were going to, before the change in administration, there was an FCC case that the FCC was going to allow the charter companies to take that pass-through and charge certain charges against it. And a year or two ago, we were concerned that that was going to go to
That went
zero.
away.
I don't remember that anything has ever happened to
No, that went away.
you know?
Or let's put it this way, it may not have gone away, but it's in limbo. It's
It
not
hasn't been
a live issue.
implemented.
No,
but
it's not.
It has not been implemented, but I think it's still out there. Now, I know they've changed several members of the FCC, so it's not quite as favorable on a business side. But that might be something to discuss with Bill and find out if he knows what that is.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we could find it online.
Yeah.
I think Linda's right, it's in limbo. The FCC composition is different now than it was a
Yeah.
year ago, so.
yeah, but if it's still on the books and it hasn't
But
been
it's
killed.
still living in the
Could change.
1960s,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
The 50s more like.
Or Healy, by the way,
You'd think that Newton Minnow was still around.
appealed that decision,
Long time ago.
and she didn't
What?
stand. Maura Healy was responsible for submitting against that order, and
Yeah.
she didn't win.
Yeah.
So she's running
Massachusetts-
for governor along with Sonia Diaz and probably a few others.
Yeah,
I think we, not necessarily our committee, but we collectively in Western Mass should really figure out who's going to be our best choice and get on it.
I
And
think
I
you're right,
think-
though, about getting a larger group.
So,
and
Linda, do we have
Berkshire
any
County
other
might be an obvious
business?
choice.
No, I was just going to say, we are digressing
Okay.
from our
So are
purpose
you
here.
looking for a motion to adjourn, or do we have other business?
No, the only other business I have to state here, as always, is we always want additional members for CTSB because membership is good. And so anybody who, and you can, if you listened early on, you see how exciting it's going to be at CTSB. So, membership is a good thing. Also, this committee, each town is entitled to 3 members. The only town right now that has 3 members is Stockbridge.
All right, good
Okay,
for you.
Okay.
Right,
Lennox has 2. Lennox has 2. Great Barrington did have 3, but 2 of them moved out of Great Barrington. They moved out of the area, actually, too. So, Tom is the only one. Renee is the only one from Sheffield. So we can use more people on our committee. So, each town, with the exception of Stockbridge, which now is fully constituted, has room for extra members. So that's my only other business.
So I'd make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That's done.